So this is a before of our bathroom. Jack and I just bought a new build house. And so we're slowly bringing it together. We have family coming soon, so we need to get our bathrooms put together so they have a curtain and everything. So our design for this bathroom, we're gonna go with like a sage green and gold. However, we're not gonna update the sink because it's just like, it's brand new, it works fine. I'm not worried about having that gold yet. Same with like the toilet paper dispenser, all those were included with the house. And then we brought this shower curtain rod from our last house, so we're not gonna update that either. We're not worried about that much gold accents and things. So we'll show you how to put on the drawer handles and cabinet, and then we'll show you our after of the curtain and everything and rug that we picked out. So for the drawer handles, we found these, and they're by Decor Living. They're Zoe. They were literally on sale for $10 and you got 8 of them, so we thought that was a killer deal. We found them at HomeSense. So if you have a HomeSense, it's basically like your TJ Maxx and Marshalls and Home Goods. And then we got these for the cabinet doors. They match really well together. See the side design. Same brand. And then we found these on clearance for $7, which we also thought was killer for 6 pieces since they're a little bigger than just the little knobbies. So we're gonna mix and match and put these here. And then we'll put the little knobbins on our drawers. And we'll show you how to do that. We bought this tool off of Amazon, and it's just a cabinet hardware jig, so it'll help you install any cabinet hardware. So we'll give it a try and let you know our thoughts on it and show you how to use it.
So first step, you're going to want to measure each of the widths of all your drawers to make sure they're same width, so that when you do go to set up your jig, that they're all the same width. Also, on the same thing, make sure they're the same height. So these are 5.5 high by 10.25. So then when you go to set up your jig, you can just set it up once for the drawers, and then you can do them all at once. So once you've determined that all the drawers are the same width, what you're going to want to do is measure the middle point of all the drawers. So these ones are a little over, or they're about 5.25. So you're going to put it at 5 2/16 or 5 1/8, depending on which one you like better. So what you're going to do is mark it right there for the middle point, and you're going to do it on each of them, because this is going to be where you're going to set your jig at when you have your jig all set up. And make sure you do this in pencil, because you're going to want to wipe this off once you get them all set. So once you have your halfway point of your drawer, what I use is just the typical speed square, just so then you can get a straight line. It just kind of rests up against that, so you just kind of set it up there, and then you can draw your line with a straight, so then it gives you a nice straight point to do. And then you can just go down and do them all at the same time. Just making sure that you line it up. Hit your speed square. Hit your speed square. So as I mentioned before, after you find the center point of 10.25, which is going to be your 5 1/8 or 2/16, you're then going to measure the height of the drawer, which this one is 5.5. So with these, we're using these little kind of circular knobs. So you're ultimately going to want this right in the middle, about there, give or take. I'm just guesstimating right now. So ultimately, there's going to be a screw that goes in there. So when you measure this 5.5, you're going to want to divide the 5.5 by 2, because ultimately that's going to give you your center point off your 5 1/8 or 5 2/16. So then ultimately 5.5 divided by 2 is 2 3/4 or 2.75. So then you come to your jig and you fix this top piece, and you want to set it right here, this underneath part to 2.75 or 2 3/4 or 2 3/4, however you want to call it, because ultimately this jig back here is going to sit flush with the top of the drawer. The nice part about this one is that it has a triangle, so when we mark that center point, the triangle is going to sit right where we mark that center point. So then you can basically go and use that center point all the time. Another nice feature about this specific one that we purchased was it's got a stop over here on the left or right hand side, because this is removable. So ultimately, if you have all the same width drawers, you can set this once you have your center point set. So once you have your center point set, because I'm going to go double check. So I got my center point. You're going to push this against there, double check to make sure you got the center point one more time. Like so. And then you're going to want to tighten this bolt in the bottom, because then ultimately you can take this jig, once that's nice and tight, and you can go from this drawer to the next drawer, and you don't have to measure that center point, and you can just mark where you're going to drill so that your knobs are the same on each drawer. So once you have the jig set up, ours actually came with this like perforated tool where it's like spring loaded, so then you don't have to like leave a pencil mark. So ultimately you hold the jig there and you just press really hard to put an indentation in there. If yours doesn't come with this, you can also use a pencil to mark it. Just sometimes it leaves like residue, but once you put the indent in there, it might be hard to pick it up on camera, but you can see the little mark right there. So if you don't want to buy the jig that I just showed you, this one was actually only $15 or $20 on Amazon. It's real nice. It's metal and a little bit of plastic. These can run up to almost $200. But if you don't have one of those, and you'll just need your typical tape measure and just a speed square. So once again, you measure your halfway mark, which in this case, half of 10 1/4 is going to be 5 1/8 or 5 2/16. So once you get that center mark, then you're going to measure once again that halfway mark, or measure the length of it, or the width of it, excuse me. And then it's basically that 5 1/2 one more time, and then half of 5 1/2 is your 2 3/4 or 2 1/4, 2.75. And then ultimately you mark that spot with your tape measure right there, so. And then you can just take your speed square from the top, match it up with the spot up top, find your 2 1/4, and then ultimately just put a spot right there, and you'll have your center spot. Once you have all of them marked, now you're going to screw, or actually drill your hole to put the screw that goes in. Most of the screws that they give you are going to be 3/16 wide. So I like our screws to be really tight in there, because these are going to get pulled on quite frequently. So I usually use a 5/32 bit, and then when I get it drilled, I'll just use a Phillips screwdriver and just screw in the screw so it's real tight on the drawer. If you use a 3/16 bit to drill the hole, it might get loose, and then it'll just get more and more loose over time. So I like to keep it really tight in there. Unfortunately, most of the hardware only comes with 1-inch screws, which 1-inch screws will work if you're using just on like a drawer or like a cabinet over here. However, since this is a drawer, they usually build up the wood. They usually put 2 pieces, like a piece of plywood and then like the finishing wood up top. So what you have to do is switch to a number 8 and a number 8 screw, which is going to be, this one in particular is 1.5 inches. We've just realized that these ones work the best for us. These do come in 1 3/4 and also 2 inches. Just depends on how thick your wood is, but when we like compare these, and once I get it in there, this will be perfect for the size that we're looking for. So you put it in there, and like I was mentioning, I like mine to be tight, so then once I get it started, I just come through with the screwdriver and I'll just screw it through. Since these are in the bathroom, then we'll get a lot of use and the moisture in the bathroom as well. I also like using a manual screwdriver for this just because I don't want to rip that joint or the hole any wider than I already have it. I know it's a little labor intensive, but it just saves the look that you're going for. Then once it starts coming through the other side, like so, you can grab your finishing, screw it on, and then you can finish tightening from behind. So then it's ultimately nice and tight, just like that. So once we put the knobs on, now we're going to put the handles on. Our design that we liked was we wanted these handles to sit kind of perfectly level with where the door met this right angle, so that's what we're going for. So ultimately, the first step you need to do is measure what's the width of this first wood piece. So this is 2 inches. So you're going to do half of 2 inches, which is 1 inch. And then the other is how far down does this other piece of wood go. And it's once again 2 inches. So basically when you go to set up your jig, you're going to want to figure out the 2 inches plus however long the screw sits in there. So this screw sits in there just about 1/2 inch. So what we did was we set our jig to 2.5 inches. So we set this side to 1 inch because we want it to sit perfectly halfway between that 2 inch piece of wood. And then ultimately you set this little stop on the jig to 2.5 inches. So we're basing it off of this hole. And then these handles are 3 3/4 wide. So ultimately what happens with the 2 holes that we have is they should match up perfectly to be able to screw, and then you'll be able to put the screws in the back and this will sit just like that. So since you're trying to put 2 screws in here, I do one as the tight bit, which we usually do like a 5/32 for the bottom. And then to give us a little leeway, we move up to a bigger bit for the top so that it wiggles around so you can match up the screws if your jig's not perfect. So we switch over to 11/64 bit for the top. So once you have your holes drilled, you just feed the screws through. And this bottom one's going to be a little tight, so you might need to get your screwdriver out to feed this one through. But the top one, since it's a little loose because you want it to be able to move it around, it usually just feeds right through, or you might have to put your, like, twist it a little bit. The bottom one you're going to have to twist all the way through because we're going to keep that one tight in there. And to speed up the process. So what I first do is connect the top one, and then I go down and connect the bottom one. But you're only going to want to connect it just a little bit to be able to know that it's in there. And then you're going to swing this one down, and then you're just going to have to finagle it to get it to fit tight. Then once you get it started, you'll feel it tighten, and then just switch back and forth so that you don't over tighten one before the other. So the top's tight. And the bottom's nice and tight. Just like that. So now you're just going to repeat that process until all the handles are going to be on.
So here's our completed bathroom. I can put a link in the description of the shower curtain and the rug. We got the rug on sale at Target for $13. And then the shower curtain, I think it was from Amazon, but I'm not sure what the price was. It was either like $19.99 or $15.99. So we'll link those in the description. Thanks for watching, and we hope you join us on the next video.